Stugatz here. Whether you're into podcasts about ghastly crimes or hip-hop rhymes, there's always something new to discover on Spotify. With a mix of originals and many of the world's most popular shows, listening to podcasts on Spotify is easy. Just open the app, tap Browse, and dive into their growing library. Subscribe to your favorites, including our entire archive, so you'll never miss a show. You can also download podcasts for those moments when you're up in the air or going underground. Podcasts on Spotify are streaming right now. Go check them out today.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz Podcast.
My name is Clinton Yates, here on a Friday. Dan Le Batard Show with Stugatz. I'm a little sick, I'm a little under the weather, but I'm here. Live from the District of Columbia, the most powerful city in the world. You might know me from The Undefeated. You might know me from my weekend show on ESPN Radio with Dominique Foxworth and Mina Kimes called The Morning Roast. And you might have seen me wearing clothes cooler than yours on Around the Horn, something I do regularly. There's one simple rule I have. If you come incorrect in my mentions, I will embarrass you in front of your friends and your family, and I will not apologize. That being said, let's lay out the show. Like I said, it's a Friday. The gang, Mike and Roy, are here. Last day you guys are in town, right, Mike?
We're doing staycations. I just had a new baby niece. I want to hang out with that. And Roy just had a baby girl.
Yep.
He's going to want to hang out with that.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Well, we will be leaning on the Miami side a little bit because my voice and my body are a little under the weather. But we got a fair amount to talk about today.
What happened to you?
I've just been traveling, dude. I've been on the road for 2 weeks, back and forth to Bristol. And, listen, I'm not complaining. I love my job. But sometimes the Bristol run in the winter, because of the weather, can become brutal. Sat in an airport twice for more than 4 hours. Finally back home. It's a lot, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not one of these guys that necessarily travels well when it comes to business travel. And so if I make more than 2 trips in a week and I make 4 in 10 days, kind of bangs me out a little bit. So that's the deal with that.
Also,
probably
airports are cesspools of germs and sickness.
And when you're on the road, the other thing, too, is that you don't eat your normal foods. You know what I'm saying? So you're always eating in an airport. The CAF in Bristol is solid, but other than that, it's always sort of a grab bag in terms of what you're going to get, when you're going to eat, if you're doing hits, if you're doing radio. It's just a lot. Your routine gets all jacked up, and I don't really have one down yet, particularly for that kind of travel, but it was a fun time, and I was glad to meet. We can talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about that when Dominique Foxworth gets here in the next segment. I got to meet a lot of people I didn't know.
That's right. You went to the big talent meeting, no?
Yes, that was a big thing. So we'll talk about that in a second.
It's like a big mixer, like a high school reunion of sorts. I'm sure it was quite the party. No wonder you're feeling.
I have quite the analogy for that, and it was rather interesting. As I said, Dominique Foxworth is going to join us in the next segment for the rest of the hour. Amin El Hassan is going to join us later in the show. Kian Fahey, who I met as well, is going to join us at 11. Excuse me. Kian Fahey at 11. Amin at 11:30. And my homie Damon Young at noon?
Yeah, you got it.
Do I have that right? Okay.
Yeah,
Damon Young from Very Smart Brothers. He wrote a thing about LeVar Ball and his new league and all that. He's a very funny guy. He's a very smart guy. So that's going to be how we lay out that portion of the show. However, before we get to any of that, we got to talk about Dick Enberg. He passed, and when you work in the broadcasting world, there are people whom you look up to, there are people whom you respect, and there are people whom you simply cannot deny their greatness. Dick Enberg was an affable guy. That is the word I would use most primarily to describe him. Sort of grandfatherish in his delivery, but not in a way that made him feel like the oldest man alive. Sort of non-controversial. He wasn't making a lot of wild statements a la a Musburger, a la a Madden. He didn't have a loud style a la a Chris Berman. Dick just laid it out. I remember him being there for a lot of big moments and never making himself a part of it. And to be clear, I don't have a problem with broadcasters making themselves a large part of the story. As somebody that does this job, I think there's a place for that. I'm just not sure that was Enberg's style overall. Worked for NBC for years, had a lot of great calls. Let's listen to a couple of them. The Broncos winning the Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl title. This is courtesy NBC. Let's hear it.
And the man, the sentimental favorite, the fans who didn't care about who won this game cared that John Elway got a Super Bowl ring. They've reserved his spot in the Hall of Fame. This man probably will get there too, but Elway's a cinch to go to Canton when he is eligible. You know, after he lost to Jacksonville last year, he went home and his sister called him and he broke down crying. His kids, his 4 children, had never seen their dad cry before. Many of you remember when your dads cry, how important it is. It was a low moment of his great career. This then will become the highest moment, the completion of a great career, a Super Bowl championship for John Elway and the Denver Broncos.
Understated. Again, that was courtesy NBC TV. Understated, intelligent, and familial. Dick Enberg wasn't a guy that was going to say something that made you, I don't know, double take at the television. He was just going to tell you a nice little story. Let's hear him calling Serena Williams winning the 2007 Australian Open.
An expression of omnipotence by Serena Williams. Convincingly, she is the 2007 Australian Open champion.
Omnipotence. Let's put it on the poll, y'all. Could you spell omnipotence without looking it up first? Mike Ryan, are you raising your hand?
I mean, Roy, as you speak, is Googling how to spell it.
Let's put it on the poll. Could you spell omnipotence without looking it up first? That's a good question, because that's a good word. Let's hear the final broadcast.
And Roy's doing that, by the way, because he's the one that has to put it on the poll. Otherwise, he'd be right there with him.
Let's hear the final broadcast of his career. He called Padres games for a while. That was sort of what he did in the latter stage of his career. But he did that. I don't really remember how long he did that. But obviously he had a long career. It's from Fox Sports San Diego.
Down to the bottom of the 9th inning, and Gosselin's walk-off win, and Arizona escapes the cellar with a 3-2 win. Well, it's not retiring now. It's graduation. As I said on Thursday, I'm joining baseball's student body, you fans. And now I can lend my voice and cheer unabashedly for the Padres in seasons to come. It's upward and it's onward. My love affair with baseball will continue.
He had one of those voices that when you heard him, you knew you were in for a fun night at the ball game. Very, very unique voice, but not one that sounded strange. I was a big Dick Enberg fan. I wouldn't say I was crazy about Dick Enberg, but I very much enjoyed his work. Now let's hear this last call, this last one, perhaps his most famous call. It's the fumble in the AFC title game in '88 between the Browns and the Broncos.
Draw to Biner. Ernest Biner. Fumble the ball, and Denver has recovered. Oh, my. Or have they? Let's wait for the official to unpile them.
There's a war going on under that stack.
There it is. Denver's ball at the 2-yard line. Biner had the first and goal and lost the ball.
I remember Dick Enberg from a lot of things. I'd say perhaps the biggest thing in my mind was probably the Olympics. Mike, does that make sense?
Yeah,
I remember
that
him a
makes
lot from the Olympics from the desk.
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense. I mean, when I think Dick Enberg, I think NBC broadcast and them having the Olympic contract so much. He was a part of your summers every 4 years and winters too. So you saw him. He was a daily part of your life. When I feel like Olympics were the original binge watching experience. We don't binge on anything in sports but the Olympics, and Enberg was a central figure in all of that.
He was. Young broadcasters out there, if your life turns out anything like Dick Enberg's from a professional standpoint, you've probably done something pretty good. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in here on the Dan Le Batard Show on a Friday. Dominique Foxworth joins us next. It's ESPN Radio. How are you, fam?
I'm good, man. I enjoy the holidays, so I'm having a good time and get to hang out with you. Got to talk to some members of the shipping container, which always brings a smile to my heart.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's the Friday before Christmas.
Are you done shopping?
Shopping.
I mean, Christmas.
I don't ask for gifts. I don't buy gifts.
Okay.
That's how I roll.
I'm not surprised.
That's basically how I am. You are a former NFL football player, as everybody who listens to this show knows. The Russell Wilson situation in Seattle. he might have been concussed in that game. They sort of acted like he wasn't. Tell me a little bit about what you thought about that.
What I understand is the referee sent him to the sideline to go through the concussion protocol. And it appears as if he did not go through the concussion protocol. So he's kind of saying that it was just his jaw that was hurting and he was not actually, there was no issue with his brain, so he may not have needed to go through the concussion protocol. Obviously, you can't rely on the person to who may have gone through some sort of head injury. You can't rely on them to determine whether they're clear or not. Right. But I think that's the reason why the Seahawks were fined, is because he was sent to go through the concussion protocol and he did not go through the concussion protocol, which is a problem.
Let me ask you this though: should this be the Seahawks' fault?
Yes.
I thought the whole point was that you had independent people who were there on the sidelines. Why isn't this the league's responsibility?
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I can't push back against that. I think everyone, with the exception of Russell Wilson, should be held responsible for that. Like, you can't expect a person who may be concussed to think clearly enough to understand whether he's being put through the protocol or not. But yeah, I'm not necessarily interested in dividing up the blame between the Seahawks or the league or the independent neurological examiner, but somebody should have put him through the protocol. He said he just went into the tent and sat down and said his jaw hurt, and they threw him back out there. That seems like a problem considering that the whole concussion issue came up, I guess, about a decade ago, and we still haven't figured out a good way to protect the players.
We're talking with Dominique Foxworth here on the Dan Le Batard Show with two guys. Clinton Yates filling in here on a Friday on ESPN Radio. Before we get to the sound, let me ask you, how many times did you see a guy on the field when you played who you knew was concussed, shouldn't have been playing, but definitely was in the game?
I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I can't necessarily say that a player was concussed or not, but I've seen many guys take some shots that I can't imagine didn't hurt their brain, and they came back in the game. And I remember, actually, the things that stand out in my mind more often is the guys who were just so out of it that there was no way around it. I remember, was it a Thanksgiving game we were playing? I was with the Broncos and we were playing in Dallas, and I think it was Ashley Lally was one of our receivers at the time from Hawaii. Shout out Hawaii Bowl.
Dang.
Yeah, he got hit really hard and came to the sideline. And I remember when we came to the sideline, they took his helmet and they were asking him what day it was. And he was like, Thursday?
That's still the go-to? That's the question.
He said, it's Thanksgiving. Why are we playing on Thanksgiving? Whoa. And so, like, we laughed about it at the time and continued to laugh for the rest of the season about it. But not that funny when you look back on it.
Not funny at all.
Yeah, that was a go-through question. That was before the concussion protocol, but there was like, what day of the week was it? Where are you? That sort of stuff. He didn't know we were in Dallas, and it was just not a great scene.
That's kind of terrifying. Let's hear what Jeff Dickerson from Dickerson and Hood had to say on Izzy in Spain about how he would fix the NFL's concussion protocol problem.
You don't want to punish a player who may or may not be concussed. You don't want to suspend that player. Here's the solution. You suspend the head coach for the next game. End of story. It will, trust me, it will never happen. And if you even think about going back out there before you've been cleared, and you know that your head coach might be suspended for the next game, you'll be released. Like, your career, like, that doesn't happen. The head coach doesn't mess around. And if the head coach sees you run back out there, he'll call a timeout. Because he's not going to get suspended and lose himself a game check. No way.
You're a union guy, Dominique. Is that even an option?
I mean, I guess anything can be agreed upon and can be put into effect. Obviously, it's unlikely that it's going to happen, and it seems Dickerson's thought there is that it'll never come into play. But I think you also fail to understand the level of intensity and the level of responsibility you feel as a player. I wrote about this a couple weeks ago, why players, after Savage was convulsing in the back of the end zone,
By the way, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
That was one of the scarier things I've ever seen on an NFL field.
Yeah. Everyone jumps to how could they let him back out there? And then some people are like, why would he want to go out there? Which is a fair question, because you think in your own mind, like, if you asked me in isolation, if you just were convulsing, would you want to go back and continue to do the thing that caused that?
Probably not.
I would say no.
Right.
However, when I was a player, like, I can go through several times where I didn't necessarily have head injuries, but like, I wanted to go back out there. It's because you feel like you have a responsibility to the guys that are out there, and you don't want to let them down. And it's almost like a familial thing where I'm not sure that this would change. I think Dickerson's idea is clear that the motivation maybe on the head coach to stop the guy from going back out there, but the player's going to try to subvert the process. Many players, no matter what.
Right, and I don't understand this. If it's supposed to be an independent evaluation, why is any of this on the team? Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it seems like the league should have a much stricter policy on who they've got on the sidelines to investigate these matters.
Yeah, I think that somewhere the communication was lost somewhere in the chain where it appeared clear that the referee said he should be evaluated. He went to the sideline, and for some reason, maybe this is what happened, and this is obviously all speculation, that the Seahawks training staff received that message and did not communicate it to the individual or the independent neurological examiner or consultant, and it wasn't happening. Maybe that's what happened. That could be that's the best thing I could come up with. But I think you're right. If the information was communicated to the independent neurological consultant, then it's no longer the Seahawks' responsibility.
Let's hear what Russell Wilson himself had to say about the situation.
I guess that's what they decided to do. You know, I thought that everything was done in the right way. There's a lot of confusion. I didn't really understand why I was coming out of the game anyway. I was completely clear. My jaw was a little messed up other than that. But, you know, that's what they decided.
I don't love that. I don't like the idea of him sort of doubling down on what, I'm not going to call it a lie, but like, again, it's not his responsibility to diagnose himself. Right. I was completely clear.
Yeah.
That's not really what this is about.
Yeah. Just to go back to the idea of the players not making a decision, I played in a game. I was with the Falcons at the time, playing against the Broncos, who I'd just been traded from a few weeks prior, and they came to Atlanta to play us. Jay Cutler was a quarterback. He's scrambling, and so I try to pursue to get him. Eddie Royal was a receiver that I was covering, so I released him, and he came around and crackback blocked me in the chest. And I remember getting up afterwards and like saying thanks to him for not hitting me in the head. But as he was walking back to the huddle, I start coughing up blood. And I remember very clearly going through this thought in my mind, like, this ain't good. I should probably go to the sideline. And like, you know me, I'm a pretty reasonable, rational guy.
You're not one of these crazy guys running around trying to play without a helmet on.
In that moment, my decision was, I'm not going to let him take me out the game. So I kept coughing, spit, continued to play. No one knew that I was coughing up blood. The blood stopped eventually. I told the trainers at the end of the game. They did an x-ray, determined I was fine. And like at the time, at that moment, whatever emotions and whatever stuff is going on in your mind, it seriously clouds your judgment. And like I'm not that person in my daily life. When I'm walking down the street, if I cough up blood, I'm calling 911.
You're going to the doctor.
Yeah, but in that particular moment, and so, I mean, to your point, the responsibility in the onus should not be on Russell Wilson to determine whether he's clear or not.
It's a scary situation, and I think that Dickerson's idea is right. You can't do something that is just a monetary value for something that is not determined by money. Right. It's a brain injury. Yeah. You're messing with people's lives. You're messing with the workforce and the labor force of your league. Popping somebody with a fine does nothing. The NFL makes billions of dollars. Every single team has $100,000 falling out their pocket every single week. That is legitimately chump change. So while Dickerson's idea of suspending the head coach is a good one in theory, I think you've got to do something a little different. I mean, I think you've got to find a way. I'm not saying you dock a draft pick. I don't really know what you do, but I'm not sure that suspending the head coach makes sense in the context of how the chain of command is supposed to work or what the protocol is.
It's not the head coach's responsibility, and it may be worth a $100,000 fine to have Russell Wilson back out on that field in that moment. So I think that the system is flawed now, but I think the core to the flaw of the system is not the punishment process as much as it's concussion is not an easy thing to diagnose. There's not even a hard definition for like a broken bone. Like you can see a fracture. You can't necessarily see a concussion. And right now, the process for determining whether a player can go back in the game or not is so imprecise. So like even if you do go through the concussion protocol, which Savage did, he was convulsing on the field, and he went through the concussion protocol, and they put him back out there. And I think that's because, like, the concussion protocol in large part is based on you do a baseline kind of cognitive analysis test at the beginning of the season. Right. And then they do that again when you are potentially concussed to determine if your brain function is back to normal or not. Like, that seems like horribly imprecise and easily gamed. I'm not sure that players do this or not, but, like, obviously you can tank the first test at the beginning of the season.
That's a good point.
Like, it's something that's easily done. And even if you don't tank the first test, like, it seems very difficult to, if I hit you in the arm and it swells up really big and I start pressing on it to determine whether it's broken or not, like, that's not an x-ray.
Right.
That's the same as this concussion protocol is.
Dominique Foxworth of The Undefeated. joins us coming up. The Stars were out in Bristol this week, meaning me and Dominique were there. It's the Dan Le Batard Show. It's two guys on ESPN Radio. We went to Bristol, Connecticut for the all-talent meeting.
The center of the world.
Center of the world, center of the universe, center of the sports universe. And, former President John Skipper gathered us all there. It was, I don't want to get too far into this because I don't want to talk about things we shouldn't talk about, but I found it empowering in one sense. I met a lot of people I hadn't met before. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You saw some people that you're only used to seeing on TV, be they coaches, be they former players, be they other, personalities and talents. We'll put this on the poll because there were a lot of people that I saw that didn't say what up. People I've talked to on the radio, people I know who they know who I am and I know who they are, who were not trying to dap up, not trying to holler. I took a little bit of offense to that.
So could they look at you and think the same thing? That you guys were both feet away from each other, both waiting for someone else to be the dap initiator?
Let's put it on the poll. If you saw an ESPN personality in public, who would you most likely say what up to first?
I feel like we should go the other way because you're guaranteed to win. Who would you least likely say what up to?
For the listeners?
Oh, yeah.
Who would they say what up to? Dominique Foxworth or Clinton Yates?
Oh, yeah, me.
Let's put that on the poll.
I'm much more affable.
I'm very unapproachable.
Yeah. I'm good looking.
Just so we're clear, I'm not a very approachable individual on the street. As a former member of the Hands community, people know I'm messing around. But what did you think overall about that gathering?
I mean, it was cool. I was one of those people who you might have, if we didn't know each other more closely, that you might have been mad at. Cause I was.
Yeah, but see, that's how you are.
It's a business trip. Right. It's always a business trip. I was in and out. I wasn't trying to be collegial, make friends. I come to listen to the man tell us what the man needed to tell us, and I had to get home as soon as possible. So I was walking around there with my head down. I hate those type of events because there's this expectation of small talk, and no one likes small talk. Very few people are good at small talk. I don't know you. I call you sometimes on the radio, you answer some questions, we pretend like we like each other, and that's that. I'm not going to pretend like we actually friends.
Best part of the whole situation, though, pretty much every single black person at ESPN sat in the same corner on the bleachers. And that was tight. It was like a high school basketball game.
I thought the best part of the situation was how I got us to the front of that long line. That was a masterful job by me.
Tell that story.
Tailgated that. So we had to ride a shuttle across campus to a different place, and it was really cold. So it's a long line, probably 50 or so plus people to get on the shuttle. So I went to the local Starbucks that was a couple feet away, bought 8 hot chocolates, and walked to the front of the line and traded hot chocolates for line jumping.
Don't lie about the reality of the story.
Oh, yeah.
You were scared to go all the way to the front. You were trying to side note
okay, so
we knew.
You want a little credit. I'll give you some credit for your brazenness, because once the plan was in action, Clint was like, why are we stopping here?
Why bother? We flew right past one Mina Kimes and one Pablo Torre.
Which is where I was going to go in because I know them. And we went up to the front of the line to some people that we don't even know. It's like, yo, want these chocolates? Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever listened to the Morning Roast, Sundays on ESPN, coming back December 31st, you know that I am the person that does not care about boarding groups when I get on planes.
Yeah, that's disrespectful.
I just go straight to the door and I get on the plane.
That's disrespectful.
That's exactly what I did in this situation. And guess what? It worked out.
Well, the plane is indoors, so boarding groups is a whole different scenario. I was shocked at the level of star power that was there, because there was Scottie Pippen I saw was there at the talent meeting, and I was thinking, you got 6 rings. You don't need to be here for this.
I'm telling a story out of school right now. Definitely saw Scottie later that night in the lobby.
Uh-oh.
Said exactly that to him. I literally said, what are you doing here, Scottie? You got 6 rings. You're in the Hall of Fame. Get a better agent. He was not pleased with me. I mean, to be fair, I was way out of pocket. We're in the lobby. Right. It was a borderline middle of the night. We had come back from karaoke, so I was, feeling good about myself to the point where I was going to approach one of the 50 best players in the history of the NBA and cold, savagely accost him. And he was like, hey, man, I like this job. I said, I like my job, too. But don't you live in L.A., Playboy? My man was not pleased.
Yeah, no,
it was a moment of brazenness that I probably wish I could take back.
There was a lot of complaining from the LA contingent. Not Scottie Pippen, apparently. He's a team guy, but there are a lot of people who I saw that from LA came from their good weather all the way out here. It's like, why are we here? It's like, oh, you gotta.
Who was the person you were most surprised to see in public that was a little different than you thought they might be?
I don't know, because I told you it was a business trip for me. I ain't talked to none of them. I was just like, like everybody's really nice.
This is the interesting part about this question, though, about people whether or not they would approach you or me. In that situation, I was doing a lot of glad handing.
Yeah,
I was ready to meet some folk.
I was not.
A lot of folks I'm trying to be,
Yeah.
I'm giving mega daps. So Dominique was in and out.
I mean, people came over and talked to me, and I gave them the fake phony, I'm happy to see you, and a couple minutes of, how's the family? Was the flight good? Blah, blah, blah. They did it to me, and we moved on. But in actuality, I wanted to walk past them and pretend like we didn't see each other. Head nod. That's cool.
The main point of the entire situation, though, Dominique, and you ain't got to co-sign this, but I'm going to say it.
Uh-oh.
For all y'all out there listening, all y'all in my mentions talking all this nonsense about how ESPN is dying, we still running this joint, fam. Understand that. All your little side websites, all your little side blogs, and your little Twitter feeds ain't doing nothing.
You sound like Suge Knight on the stage of the Source Awards.
I'm just saying. Check the numbers. You watching games? You probably watching ESPN Playboy. And that was the overall message for me.
Oh, man.
Was that we still in this piece, and the reason why is because of everybody who was there. That's what I took from it. And I ain't ashamed of that. Are there quibbles and issues I have with certain things that we do? Of course. This show is probably one of the ones that does the most in terms of criticizing what the network does that is, either illogical or otherwise contradictory. But in that moment, with all those people in there, all the people I grew up watching, all the people I still watch, it was evident. It was the most talent on earth right there in that room on that one day.
Maybe, but I would push back on it a little bit. Like the reason why ESPN, I wouldn't push back that ESPN is on top. The reason why is the ESPN, but I'll push back on the reason. The people in the room, it's nice, a lot of talent, it's entertaining, but ESPN is on top because they got all these rights. That's what people want to see. They want to see these games. They don't care about us.
Gas myself for a little bit?
Oh, my bad. Yeah, we the best. You don't want to see us in these streets.
Can't let me gas myself for a little bit?
ESPN, talent.
I'm trying, man.
Center of the universe.
Here on a Friday. Clinton Yates, Dominique Foxworth, Dan Le Batard Show. Coming up, we're going to talk about Will Smith. You know why? Because he makes garbage movies. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Dan Le Batard Show. It's two guys. Dominique Foxworth's here as well. It's ESPN Radio. Headline, the best critic slams of Will Smith's astoundingly bad Netflix movie, Bright. And somebody wrote, what is this Will Smith slander about? I'm thinking to myself, Will Smith don't make good movies
anymore.
Shall we go through this discography, Playboy?
Sure, please do.
Discography, filmography. When was the last time you saw a Will Smith movie in the theater? A movie you would actually qualify as a Will Smith movie? AKA Bad Boys doesn't count.
I mean, I went and saw Concussion. Like, I felt like...
Oh, I saw that too.
That was his movie.
Fair
I
enough.
went to see it. His accent was a little funny, but the movie wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but I mean, it was a mediocre movie, so... and that was definitely a Will Smith vehicle.
Right.
So that was the last time I went to see Will Smith in the theater, and I'm not going to watch this Will Smith straight to Netflix.
I'm kind of disqualifying that because it was based on a true story where he was playing somebody else, not a creative character.
Now you just sound like a hater.
I am a little bit of a hater.
Now you just sound like a hater. Like it was his movie.
But let's go through these movies.
So you think people went to see it because they love Bennett Amalu so much?
I think people wanted to know the story about what's going on in the NFL.
That's fair.
Legit.
That's fair, but I still think it was a Will Smith vehicle. It wasn't a Bennett Amalu movie.
Okay. Collateral Beauty. Do you even know what that is?
Yes, I do. I didn't see it though. It was like some dead things were talking to him, right? It was about like I think like his main character, like his son died or something.
I've never heard of that movie.
I remember it because I remember my mother-in-law being excited to see it, and I was like, what? You really want to see that?
Suicide Squad, I saw that. I liked that. Yeah. That was not a Will Smith movie.
I saw
Concussion, you mentioned. We're going, by the way, in reverse chronological order here. Focus? Do you know what that is?
Focus. It sounds. Oh yeah, that was when him and was it Margot Robbie? They were like scam artists or.
Oh yeah. Okay,
I did not see that.
Okay, I remember the ads for that. Annie, he was in that.
Oh yeah,
you're on the kids movie circuit. Did you see that?
I didn't see. I saw Annie. I don't remember him being in it. That was Jamie Foxx.
You paid some guy
your black
named
actors mixed up.
I'm saying it's on the list. Before that, Winter's Tale.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either. Anchorman 2, he was apparently in.
That's not. I mean, you proved your point. Like, I don't go to the movie theaters to see Will Smith anymore. Not that I ever did, but it's fair to be critical of Will Smith. But I mean, he made Fresh Prince.
Put it on the poll.
Fresh Prince is a classic.
Is Will Smith a bad movie actor?
Independence Day.
Yes or no?
Independence Day was good.
That's a Will Smith vehicle.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. Probably not. Has he ever been, let me ask you this question. Has he ever been the best actor in any movie you've ever seen? That includes I Am Legend, in which there were 0 other humans.
Yeah, the dog was better.
I was just about to say that. The dog was better. the dog was a way better actor.
The dog was dope in that movie. And the Little Zombies, dope in that movie. What about, didn't he have a movie where it was nobody in it but just him and his son?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain Jaden was probably better in that.
Yeah,
My money's on Jaden.
Pursuit of Happiness, he was good in.
No, that's not what I was thinking about, Mike. I was thinking about
they were like
some
a dystopian
superhero movie. Yeah.
Oh, After Earth with Jaden?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that was the beginning of the end for Will.
Mike, your thoughts on Will Smith?
I loved him when I was growing up. I love Fresh Prince. I love Men in Black. I love Independence Day. This is making me very sad. I don't want to judge a movie by its synopsis, but a veteran cop teaming with his rookie orc partner to destroy a magic wand, it kind of lost me.
Out of all this stuff he's done, the peak of Will Smith, obviously, is Bad Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
What are we waiting for, guys? We need Bad Boys 3. Triple down. I would watch Bad Boys movies for the rest of my life.
They're apparently filming 3 and 4 together. That was the talk, but this thing hasn't started yet. We need Mike Lowry back.
Mike Lowry.
I feel like that's like natural Will Smith. It's not much acting. I feel like that's who Will Smith really
If we were
wishes
Bad
he
Boys,
was.
who would be Mike Lowry?
I mean, come on. Let's not be silly.
I know, probably be me. Good call. Dominique Foxworth, Clinton Yates, filling in here on Friday. It's the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio. Say what up to me on Twitter, kiddos.